To tell you the truth, we're thinking of sneaking into the ritual storehouse. Eh? She made it sound like she was going to do something fun, but it wouldn't be amusing to anyone who knew what the ritual storehouse was. I guess it makes sense. In Watanagashi, we see it from Keiichi's perspective, obviously. And when she, dragged Keiichi along, she obviously knew that Takano and Tomitake were going to sneak into there in advance and was like, "Hey Keiichi, you wanna check this out?" The ritual storehouse, or the storehouse of other ritual implements, is sort of a treasure house belonging to the Furude Shrine. I heard that oyashiro-sama's secret treasures were stored in there. Only people from the Furude family and selected members of the other two free families are allowed to enter. Which makes you wonder, Rika's the only living member of her family, so that's her, but it also says the other two families, but only selected members. So who are the selected members? I can imagine Ichiro Kimiyoshi, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, probably would be allowed access to it. And I'd imagine, obviously, Oreo, the current head of the Sonozaki family, would obviously be allowed access. Mion's next in line, so she could possibly be one of the ones that's allowed access as well. Just wonder how many people actually have access to it. I believe that if our people enter, the place will be desecrated. Everybody in Hinamizawa must have been curious about what was in there when they were kids. But the storehouse was always tightly locked. You couldn't just peek into it either. Kids would get chided if they played around it, so they'd learn to stay away. Didn't like being around it myself, since I was familiar with all that. Even though I didn't believe in curses, I still didn't want to be near it. Nothing good can come from breaking the rules. Were they still going to enter the ritual storehouse despite all that? I'm pretty sure it's tightly locked. It was until last year. Rika-chan had the heavy bolt changed to a cheap padlock, because the bolt was too heavy for her to lift. Did you know that? No, but even if it's cheap, it's still locked, isn't it? Higurashi is very skilled. Oh, are you good at lockpicking? Once the Watanagashi ritual starts, everybody will gather around the stage, right? Then the area around this storehouse will be completely devoid of people. Tonight, this place will be a blind spot. Can't see the forest for the trees, I suppose. According to our hypothesis, the ancient tools used for human dissection and torture would be found in the ritual storehouse. Why don't you join us in a bit? It's now or never. Hee 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 hee! So maybe I'll see you then. Takano-san, what are you telling her? Just girl talk. Let's go to some dark place for a quick date. Hee 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 hee! Takano-san walked against the flow of the crowd alongside Tomitake-san. The ritual storehouse, huh? It's supposedly filled with torture tools. Considering what they had in the underground torture room at the Sonozaki house, it's quite possible. Satoshi fell victim to the curse in the 4th year. His aunt's death was a sign of oyashiro-sama's curse. Satoshi was the sacrifice to pacify oyashiro-sama's anger. That was what Takano-san said last year. It was just her hypothesis. At present I want to deny her hypothesis, because I want to believe that Satoshi was still alive. If her hypothesis was correct, either some religious fanatic or somebody from the three families must be imitating the curse in order to revive the ancient custom of Onigafuchi. It would mean that it was them who killed Satoshi-kun. So what if the ritual storehouse was filled with garbage instead of torture implements? Maybe it was filled with broken palanquins or freshly painted signboards for the festival. What then? It wasn't really hard for me to believe that it was filled with a chemical smell of paint. Maybe I'll get to deny the hypothesis that Satoshi-kun was sacrificed by seeing the inside of the ritual storehouse for myself. Whatever was in there, it didn't mean that Satoshi-kun would come back. What should I do, Satoshi-kun? Since most people want to see Rikachama's ritual dance, the festival grounds were deadly quiet. Even so, I couldn't sense Satoshi-kun. Did he go somewhere, or was I not paying enough attention? Or maybe he wasn't feeling any emotion in particular. After thinking for a while, I decided to go in with them. It had been almost a year since Satoshi-kun's disappearance. I'd been avoiding the truth because I was afraid he might be dead. But now I had a chance. I had a chance to see the inside of the ritual storehouse. I felt as though something divine had arranged that coincidence. On my way to the storehouse, I noticed Keiichi. He was jumping up and down trying to see Rikachama's dedication dance over people's shoulders. If I took him along, we could split the guilt. Oyashiro-sama might put a curse on me for entering his divine storehouse. I wanted a partner in crime. Since the boy I loved disappeared last year because of the curse, maybe Mion's love should disappear this year. What the hell, Shion? Well, what am I thinking? Even she's like, what? That must have been a demon inside me. I shook the thought out of my head. What's going on, Shion? Where's the best place to see Rika-chan's dance from? Is it far? Huh? I never said I was going to show you that. We made it to the ritual storehouse. Keiichi was baffled by the whole situation. Our timing had been perfect. I could see Tomitake stand picking the lock. Under the moon. Even though Keiichi must have been curious, he insisted that we shouldn't go in. But I talked him into it anyway. He was quick to change his mind when Tomitake-san joined in. You know, this scene is like going at a much quicker pace than it did in Higurashi, because from Keiichi's perspective there was a lot more detail, where he's just like the build-up and all that. It was completely dark inside, so Takano-san lit a battery-powered lantern. A small entry space appeared before us. It's so dark in here. Take care not to trip over anything. I appreciate the concern. Okay, doorman, keep a good watch. We're shutting the door now. Takano-san closes the door with a smile as if leaving Tomitake-san out on purpose. Man. Alright everyone, have fun. As soon as the heavy door was closed, we were surrounded by quiet darkness. All we could rely on was Takano-san's lantern. It'll be fine, it's an outdoor lantern with backup batteries inside. It won't go out or anything. Takano-san teased Keiichi a little. Keiichi in turn looked a little pale. He seemed to be able to recognize the sanctity of the building, even though he wasn't from Hinamizawa. Let's go in. Here we go. There. After Takano-san opened the heavy inner door, a dusty foul smell flowed out. It was like the smell of a pantry that hadn't been opened in years and the smell of a fish market mixed together. I didn't know exactly how to describe it, but it was a bad smell. From listening to the echo of our footsteps, I could tell that this room was much brighter than the one we were just in. When Takano-san raised her lantern, I could clearly see just how big it was. Wow! At the far side of the wall, there was a statue of some kind of god staring down at us intruders. The way it was lit by the lantern gave it a powerful appearance, and it scared me. That's the guardian god of Hinamizawa, Oyashiro-sama. I looked up at the statue, which was holding its religious ornaments. If Satoshi-kun's disappearance really was a curse, I couldn't forgive this god. I found myself irritated by the way the statue looked down at me. Damn you, Oyashiro-sama. If you really made Satoshi-kun disappear, I'll never forgive you, never. Keiichi didn't seem to understand the significance of the storehouse. He looked bored. Takano-san noticed that and took out her scrapbooks to show him the brutal history of the ancient Hinamizawa, which we probably won't get into details because she already did that with, filled Shion in on this stuff before the time skip. I'd heard that story already, so I decided to walk around by myself. Makes sense, doesn't it? Since I knew the significance of all these tools, I felt a little nauseated. There's those old bear traps again. No different from the fricking, Sonozaki torture room, really. There's the exact same image. Though they certainly wouldn't jump out to me, I still found them intimidating. They looked as if they were craving for fresh blood after not having been used in hundreds of years. All the tools looked similar to the ones I saw in the underground torture room at the Sonozaki main house. If those tools were the preliminaries of torture implements, these would be their ancestors. All the implements here looked old. I doubted they could really be used. They weren't kept maintained like the ones at the Sonozaki house. So did that mean they shouldn't scare me? Oh, on the contrary. They told me that cruel rituals were indeed performed in his village at one point. Now that I found scary. What Takano-san told me was the truth. When I stopped, Satoshi-gun also stopped behind me, one step later. I felt no emotional change in Satoshi-gun. I couldn't tell if he was feeling something or not. I knew he was there, but I had no idea how he was feeling. I felt scared of him for the first time. If he could answer me, I'd want to ask him, who demoned you away? Are you listening, Satoshi-gun? I couldn't tell if he heard me or not. He left as if he didn't hear anything. I could tell that he'd been sulky ever since we got here. I suddenly felt lonely, so I looked for him while walking around. What the heck? What instrument is that? Could be a guitar. I think it's a string instrument of some sort. Like if you like on a guitar, if you kind of like, just kind of like lightly kind of move your guitar pick over like the frets, and just kind of like move in a kind of way you can give that kind of sound. Does sound like it. It could be a different string instrument. I suddenly felt lonely, so I looked for him while walking around. I realized then that there was an altar in front of the statue. I think it's playing a Japanese scale. It sounds very oriental, so it possibly is. He might be there. It was a clean altar. An altar ornamented with religious artifacts. It was kept well maintained. I saw no dust. What I mean, well, the flowers in the vase weren't wilting. I saw a pretty handkerchief under the vase. It looked out of place amongst everything else. I was fairly certain it was Rika Furude's handkerchief. That would mean that the storehouse is maintained daily. It wasn't a forgotten ruin buried in dust. So the brutality that dwelled in the ritual storehouse is still alive and well in Hinamizawa. You know, that's kind of eerie in a way, isn't it? Think of Rika, right? I think she's like somewhere between 9 and 11 years old or something like that, supposedly. And just picture that, just like cutesy little girl, she's like, yeah, like, Nipa! And yet maintains this freaking ritual storehouse that's got all these torture devices and this dark history. That image is pretty much Higurashi in a nutshell, really, isn't it? Cutesy, but dark. It all starts off all nice and all kind of like playful, and then it goes dark. That's right. Something as ambiguous as oyashiro-sama's curse is nothing more than a simple delusion of the villagers. As Takano-san said, everything that happens in this world is done by humans. Wow. I don't think so. I mean, that's kind of vague, isn't it? Everything that happens in the world is done by humans. If a bear takes a shit, like on a tree or something, is that really because of humans? No. It's because a bear took a shit. But that's not the kind of example she's looking for with that quote. I'd accuse oyashiro-sama of demoning away Satoshi-gun. But oyashiro-sama is just a statue made of bronze or wood. It's nothing but an icon. There are, however, human beings who would try to make that icon seem real. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa is the result of human action. It shouldn't be called oyashiro-sama's curse. Satoshi-gun was the 4th year's victim. then he was victimized by a human being who just was acting the part of a curse. The person who demoned away Satoshi-kun must not be very far from me. The truth behind Satoshi-kun's disappearance was not so far from my grasp. Thump. I was startled by the sound. It sounded like somebody had dropped something. I looked over at Takano and Keiichi. Takano was still lecturing him. Did she drop her scrapbook or something? Thump, thump, thump. The sound came from right behind me, not from them. I never heard Satoshi-kun do that. It sounded like somebody was stomping on the floor in frustration. What is it? Thump, thump, thump. The sound continued, ignoring my question. Though I heard it right nearby, it sounded as though a child was hopping on a wooden floor somewhere distant. What's wrong, Satoshi-kun? Are you angry about something? I couldn't read his expressions. I thought he was mad, but I didn't sense any emotion from him at all. Was he mad that I touched the altar? Maybe you weren't supposed to do that. Thump, thump, thump! It's not that I'd been able to communicate with Satoshi-kun in a concrete way. I just talked to him. I was never expecting him to react like that. I didn't sense a willingness to communicate from this creepy sound. And this creepy soundtrack. Then a chill ran up my spine. I felt as if all my pores were opening. I'd been thinking that it was Satoshi-kun stomping on the floor. Hey, you. You're Satoshi-kun, aren't you? The sound stopped when I asked that. It wasn't a yes or no, just silence. Satoshi-kun wouldn't scare me like that. I realized suddenly that the sound hadn't come from Satoshi-kun. A cold shiver shot through my feet and I sprung a step backward. The sound had come from right there. Even though I jumped back, I was still just a few meters away. Satoshi-kun would sometimes let me hear his footsteps when I walked. But if that wasn't Satoshi-kun, then there was no guarantee I'd heard his footsteps. So that invisible being could already be right in front of my eyes. I just couldn't see it. I forgot everything and ran, straining my ears as much as possible for any sound, listening for any footsteps pursuing me. I ran right into Keiichi and clung to him, timidly turning back to look. The dimly lit area before the altar was quiet, like nothing was happening. But seeing that chilling dark stillness, realizing I was just in that space, made me even more frightened now. What's up, Shion? Did you get scared? Keiichi made fun of me. Even though he'd looked horrified just a little while ago, he now looked satisfied to see me scared too. I know girls tend to get freaked out by haunted houses. Well, I don't mind it. Anyway, let's go, before Takano-san leaves us behind. I pretended to be fine, but I wasn't sure if I was able to hide my fear entirely. The footsteps were chasing me. They were outside the illumination of the lantern as if they couldn't go into the light. The presence never left us, however. It followed us like a fourth member of the party. Sometimes it made a stomping sound as if wanting some recognition. But neither Takano-san nor Keiichi seemed to notice it. It was possible for Takano-san to be ignoring it, but Keiichi would never ignore it. If he could hear it, he would have said something. So, just like Satoshi-kun, only I could hear it. Oh shit! Rambury with Higurashi? Well, let's see if it kind of mentions that this time around. What was this thing that was making me so scared? Was Satoshi-kun in a bad mood? Or was it possible that the presence I believed to be Satoshi-kun might not have been him at all? Thump. Thump. What are you upset about, Satoshi-kun? Tell me if I did something wrong. I'll apologize. Thump. 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 If you aren't Satoshi-kun, then where did he go? When did you take his place? Thump! 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 Just 3 thumps. Shion, are you alright? Huh? I'm fine. You look pale, though. Then I'd appreciate it if you didn't stretch my clothes too much. Sorry. Oh, am I interrupting you two? Hee hee hee! I decided to engage in the conversation to help myself ignore the sound from behind. I didn't hear the sound as much, and it became a bit more distant. Yeah, I shouldn't pay attention to it. It wouldn't bother me if I didn't hear it. I should just ignore the noise. Takano-san, you're researching whether those customs survived into the present. You are, right? Thump thump. What I'm about to tell you is a secret, alright. I told you, Shion-chan, because you're an understanding person, but the other villagers don't want to hear it. If things go awry, I would be ganged up on and punished. She smiled at me like a witch. Thump thump. My Barakun, you keep it a secret too, okay? If this gets out, I could suffer Oyashiro-sama's curse, or be made into a sacrifice. If it's the curse, then I wonder what kind of death it'll be this year. If it's the sacrifice, then will I be thrown into the Onagafuchi swamp while still alive? And it is tonight, you know. The night of Oyashiro-sama's curse. It certainly is. If the curse strikes for a 5th time, it'll happen tonight. Thump thump thump! Takano-san pulled out an old scrapbook from her paper bag and started turning the pages. She opened it to the page with that one article. It was the article about the brutal murder of the Higurashi victim. It happened in the Meiji era. It's a story that actually happened. It was around the end of the Meiji era. They discovered an unknown mangled corpse, the victim of a murder in Onagafuchi village. Thump, 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 thump! Never before has there been a corpse treated with such cruelty and inhumanity. Thump, thump, thump! Hey, you guys seriously don't hear that? It's freaking loud, how can you not hear it? Ah hell, it's freaking noisy, cut it out already! At the next moment someone shot a pig for some reason. No, we all hear the squeaking noise. The door makes the sound of a freaking shot pig. We turned around in surprise. It was just Tomitake-san opening the door. Did I saw you? Oh, Chira-san, could you not resist seeing inside? This is a splendid treasure trove of torture devices. I'll pass on that. I'm bad with this sort of thing by nature. Takano-san laughed as if making fun of Tomitake-san for being such a scaredy cat. In any case, the dance and ceremony are over and everyone's going down to the river. The festival as a whole will be over within minutes. Time was up. I never expected that Tomitake-san would save me from this nightmare. His face suddenly looked heroic. Oh, Keiichi, are you leaving too? I've seen enough. Shion, you're good too, right? Let's get out of here. Or maybe that was, Tomitake, I don't know. I want some fresh air. I agree, let's leave. I went to the entry room and turned around. Takano-san was taking photos in a mad rush there while our time was up. I didn't hear that sound anymore. I didn't feel that presence. I didn't feel Satoshi-kun either. But somehow I wasn't too sad about that. Even if he followed me out to here, I wouldn't be able to tell if it was really him or somebody else. Don't go on a scene trying— You son of a bitch! Higurashi when they cry. It bugs me, it just really does. They're like, in Tanagashi, got our tips. In both scenarios, they skip over it. That's annoying. Achievement unlocked. Defilers. Okay, so in Tanagashi when this happened, there was a scene afterwards, which they skipped over another scene as well. Remember when she was like, asked Keiichi about the sound, and he was like, what sound? And she was like, forget I said anything, and then bug it off. Remember that? We didn't get to see that from Shion's perspective here, did we? And there was one scene in Tanagashi which surprisingly didn't get addressed here. It was like, it kind of got, I don't know, it was like skimmed over. It's like nobody really acknowledged it at all, really. Like, Shion was like, what the hell is that noise? And, you know, Keiichi was like, I didn't hear anything. But one person who did comment on it was frickin' Tomitake. Like, when they leave, he was like, asking what that noise coming from inside was all about. So it's kind of implied he heard it too. Why would it skip over something like that? Surely, if maybe Shion just wasn't paying attention when he said it. For if she was, she'd be like, you heard it too, right? So, then, what could it be? But no, they skipped over it.
That underground torture room is officially called the Underground Ritual Storehouse.
So, do torture room and ritual storehouse mean the same thing? According to Takano-san's theory, bloody rituals, including Watanagashi, have been passed down among the three families even after the Meiji era. Rituals are always ready to be performed. Their forms of worship always resolved around torture. So, Hinamizawa's history involved a great deal of human slaughter. Takano-san's theory is correct. The underground storehouse at the Sonozaki house looked well maintained. Takano-san is right about that too. The Sonozaki family and the Frida family both have ritual storehouses. The Kimiyoshi family must have one too. After all, these ancient and burial customs are still handed down for the generations. I should remain armed with the knowledge that occult events are still secretly being performed in this cursed village. That's an interesting thing, you know. We don't really get as much insight in the Kimiyoshi family in the Higurashi series. We get insight into, Sonozaki a lot, and to an extent the Furede, because there's Rika, she's one of the main characters. I mean, she's the only living one of the family. But the Kimiyoshi family kind of gets skipped over. So, yeah, he's the mayor, but that's it. We don't really get much details. There are spin-offs that kind of go into detail about him, but I don't know how much they count as canon. Even though I think it's the same writer and all that. But still, seems to me that the canon is pretty much, the first question arcs and the answer arcs. Everything else is just like a what-if scenario, really, isn't it? The sanctity of the ritual storehouse is one of the most prominent elements in the worship of oyashiro-sama. Of course I knew that since I'm originally from Hinamizawa, but violating that sanctity is actually a more serious problem than I thought. Takano-san's research shows that the history of the ritual storehouse goes way back. Ritual implements within have long been viewed as inviolable objects, which is why it was strictly forbidden to enter. Takano-san's theory says that Watanagashi was once a public execution, reformed to stabilize the reign of the three families, rather than a purely religious ritual. If so, the ritual should hardly be called sacred. Under those circumstances, the implements should have been despised as symbols of hatred and fear. When instruments of fear are too visible, it only creates a reign of terror. But keep them as hidden as possible, and they gain identity. Many said they would become tainted if the layman touched them. The only reason for that was to preserve their false prestige through secrecy. Hence they would lose their sanctity if revealed before the common folk. In other words, the true identity of the ritual storehouse's sacredness was fear. That was the true emotion ruling over this village. The reason why Takano-san and Tomitake-san were cursed is because they broke into the ritual storehouse. Well, we're already gonna go over that already? I don't know how the villagers found out about it. Maybe somebody was watching. Maybe there was an anti-theft alarm. That's just weird, man. It's like complete difference in the first half and the second half here, isn't it? First half was like really kind of paced kind of normally. He's just like, okay, and this is how Shion, came back to Okinawa and Hinamizawa, how she met Satoshi, and she fell in love with him, and then she got punished, and he disappeared, and then a year went, and she's just like on with her life and shit like that, and now we're in the present. Well, I guess they're probably skipping over it quite a bit, because, if, you want it in full detail of everything, would be Watanagashi for this half, really, wouldn't it? This is the answer arc to it, but it doesn't necessarily have to go full-on details for everything, really, does it? I don't know. Either way, our intrusion must have been reported to the highest level of the curse system. That's because, considering the distance between the village and the site where Takano-san's body was found, she must have been killed right after we came out of the ritual storehouse. It was done very quickly. It's possible that a special assassination team exists for this purpose, or that the plan had been set up a long time ago. They might have been secret agents of the Sonzaki family, but the latter sounds more valid. But if so, who would have been the victim if nobody broke into the ritual storehouse?
My relatives gathered at the Satoshi house of the festival to have a little party.
So I guess she's welcomed into the family a bit more now, from the sounds of it. But that'll do for this recording. I wonder how many parts I'm going to get out of that recording session here. An hour and 19 minutes going on an hour and 20 minutes. That's quite a bit of time. Anyways, I'll see you next time, viewers. See you next time.